Let's do the 3 belly down back bends. We'll do the Cobra, the Locust, and the Bow. Cobra, we start, we lift the upper part of the spine. The Locust, we lift the lower part of the spine. And then the Bow, we lift both. So, but it's all back bends. And being on the belly, as opposed to on any other orientation, is unique in a couple ways. One is that the pressure that we feel in the abdominal organs, all the organs are essential organs, gives a nice massage for them, right? By being on the belly, particularly when we get into bow, we're just resting on our belly. And then being back bends, it's very energizing, and it's great for the spine, and also for these particularly, since we're lifting up, they're all anti-gravity poses. We're lifting up. It's very strengthening poses, so it builds a lot of strength in the back, as opposed to doing a back bend like camel. Doesn't require the same strength, because gravity is actually helping me go farther. Any strength is actually to help me not go so far. That's the strength in that pose. Whereas if we're on our belly lifting up, then it builds strength in the back. So we can build a lot of strength in the back, which helps to support the back that way. And then of course, by doing these poses that are symmetrical on each side, like Cobra, we're symmetrical on each side, right and left side, we bring balance back into the body. So any imbalances that we get from daily life, we can kind of bring ourselves back, both in the muscle system of the body and also the bone system of the body. And I guess that would also, with the nervous system as well, they control those. Just talk to a couple things for Cobra here. The hand position. I always think about the top of the shoulders come down to the top of the hand. So we just can make a line right there, and that's where that is. And we don't want the elbows out. We want the elbows in, close. And we don't want the shoulders up. We want the shoulders down. So hands under the shoulders, elbows in towards each other, and shoulders back. So elbows come close, and elbows come towards the hips. So this is a position that we want for the arms. And then the body, or the legs can just be together. And for the spine, we want a nice long spine, just like everything. So if I could, I would leave my hips, push my hips that way, and push the top of the head this way. That would be a long spine, and we want to think about that as we do the whole pose. So as we're ready, we're going to lift up using the back muscles, and we lift up using the arm muscles. And think about lengthening the spine. So one way to lengthen the spine here is to use these front hands and kind of pull myself forward. That will lengthen the spine, right? As opposed to if I push, that's going to be a shortening of the spine. So we want to pull the heart forward and up. Elbows stay close, shoulders down. That's the main alignment. So like a lot of times when people see people shoulders up, elbows out, this is not what we prefer. We prefer elbows in and shoulders down. So as the shoulders come down, it's a way of like reaching the heart forward and up. Elbows close, shoulders down. And then the head, traditionally they would have, cranked the head back, but we don't need to do that. We can just let the head be a continuation of the spine and really think about working and moving the heart towards that front wall as much as you can, even imagining us moving that heart up towards the ceiling. So this is the main pose. See, fingers spread, elbows close, shoulders bent, or shoulders back. Elbows stay bent, they don't ever come straight in a Cobra. And then you breathe here. And lower back down. And then oftentimes we get a rest in between Cobra and the other poses. Can somebody come up and do an adjustment for Cobra? Okay, so for alignment of Cobra, So the fingers align with the top of the shoulders. We can get the alignment of the elbows and shoulders even right here before she comes up, right? Shoulders away and elbows close. It's nice alignment. And then, yeah, so it's nice symmetrical body, legs together, elbows together, yep. And then reach the heart forward and up. And we come up as high as you want to come up. A little bit more energy in the arms. You can lift higher. There we go, yep. But as she lifts higher, her shoulders came up. So we want to do both. Lift higher, but then keep the shoulders down. So we want to reach the heart through and up, shoulders down. She's coming up way higher, right? That's great. Elbows hug right in, shoulders back, and we lift up. Imagine yourself pulling yourself forward. Like you're crawling forward, so you can pull your heart forward and up. This is awesome, right? Yeah. Shoulders down, elbows close. Again, it would be great to have 4 hands.
Yes, it would.
2 to pull the shoulders back, and then 2 to reach the heart forward. Right? And then I can take some of her weight if you can relax a little bit.
Wow.
There we go.
Oh my God, it feels amazing.
So then you got to figure out how to find that with your own support of relaxing enough but keeping some engagement.
Yeah,
It's not happening today.
No, they go right up.
Yeah. The one thing about pulling back like this though is I don't want to jam her low back. I don't want to just be pulling back and jamming. She's fairly strong, so it's not really a big issue here of necessarily doing any damage to her low back, but people who aren't quite as strong in the spine, it's we really have to be careful not to pull back so much. And we really want it to be a pulling of the shoulders, but a reaching forward of the heart, as to be increasing the curve of the spine, but also keep the lengthening of the spine. That's great. Thank you.
Thank you.
So you can come into Cobra and then she'll try to adjust you. So we can all be looking at her alignment as she's adjusting, right? So just step back and look for a moment, right? We just want a nice symmetrical, legs look good, hips look good. Align the hands.
Back a little bit more. Yeah?
Yep.
Okay. There we go. Her shoulders look good.
Yeah.
Come up a little bit more, maybe. There we go.
And so we want the hips to stay down.
Like that.
Hips down and arch the back.
That feel good? Okay. Right here? Yeah.
Yeah, so if we could get more arch in the back. I'm seeing quite a bit of bend right in the low back, but then it's kind of fairly straight. So we want, the whole back as much as we can to have a nice even arch. Most of the bend is going to be in the low back, but the more we can, if we can bend the upper back, we're going to have a really hard opening.
Like that?
Elbows hug in, shoulders back. Maybe even lower down onto your hips. More. Lower down, so bring your hips down, and then keep this down, and come up now. Oh,
nope, you're up again. Keep your hip. You're coming up again, yeah.
Yep, so right there, and then so from here, we want to open up this somehow, right?
Okay.
So this combination of everybody's spine has different structure, but then also our muscles have learn to hold the body in certain positions. And if we're not able to open the upper back, it means we're kind of doing the opposite of kind of closing and protecting of the heart. So if we can open this up, so we get more, like we could push through here, this would be an opening of the heart. This is where our challenge is when the back bends.
So keep my hand over here.
Yeah, it's just like an experiment as to what's going to work. I don't know what's going to work. But we're going to work on her keeping her hips low and trying to arch as much as we can.
So inhale and then come up, opening. She's still lifting.
Yep. Yeah, but you can see that, right? It's fairly straight here, and then there's the bend just here. So we want to get some more opening up here. Let me try it for a second, just to see, experiment. So elbows close, shoulders back, and as if I could push through right here. Yeah.
It's tight.
How's it feel? What's it feel like?
Good. My hands are giving away, but
So your arms are getting tired, that's fine.
Yeah.
But how's it feel up here?
it feels good.
It feels good? Does it feel restricted? Does it feel like you want to break through? Does it feel like you're where you want to be? Or
So straight. It feels like I'm very straight when I'm doing that.
yeah, I think it is straight. It would be, I think, preferably if you have more mobility in the upper part of your spine, if you could fold forward and back more. Let me try one thing. Come up one more time. Just going to try to really.
Yeah.
How's that feel?
Good.
It feels okay?
Yes.
That feels okay? That feels okay? Okay, so I'm pushing really hard here, right? Ooh, is that okay? I think you're getting a big opening. Wow.
Yeah, because it was very hard. How's that?
Yeah. Yeah, so we're getting more opening in the upper part of the back there, which is a Cobra. Yeah, thanks. How's that feel? It feels totally fine.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I would think about just doing something to open up that upper part of the back. You know, your low back is nice and open, but your upper back, not so much. So think about lifting the ribs, arching, and yeah, just getting as much mobility up there as you can. Even probably it will transfer in the twists. You know, probably your twists are probably just in the lower part, do as much as we can in the upper part. Maybe even poses like downward dog would help to open up this part, the whole upper part of the body. Yeah, and doing pose like Cobra is great. Another pose that we can do in place of Cobra, because sometimes our arms get tired in Cobra, is the Sphinx pose. Probably be great for you actually for two reasons. One, you could hold a lot longer because our arms aren't getting as tired. And then two, the low back or the hips are kind of more in place. So then it becomes more of an upper back pose. So same alignment, elbows are there, shoulders down, reach the heart forward, and then we're in the pose. And you can get as much out of this as you put in. You can just sit here passively, or you can, actively pull and engage. But that's a great pose. I don't necessarily know if there's one answer to that. Sphinx is great because if you don't have the strength to hold and do Cobra for a long time, it's great for that. And then probably is better if people do have back challenges because it's less, it's kind of less of a pose in a way. It's not as extreme. It's doing the same thing, but it's maybe more gentle and we have more control. Yeah, I guess the reason that we don't necessarily want to lift up the hips in Cobra, I mean, there's not really anything wrong with it, but it kind of gives us the illusion that we're coming up higher and getting more back bend than we actually are.
Okay. Isn't that also like the lower part of your spine, is it kind of crunching it together when you come all the way up on your heels?
Not necessarily, but it's just like if you look at the arch in my low back when my hips are down versus when my hips are up, the arch doesn't actually change, right? It's just I'm actually hinging at my knees, right? Whereas we want to hinge in the spine. So it's not that particularly dangerous or bad in that regard. It's just it de-emphasizes or doesn't allow us to see the arch happening quite as much. So if we do, maybe even keep the belly button on the floor, or at least the hips, because then we'll get the arch just in the back. Because if we keep the hips aligned and on the floor, then the spine comes out of the hips, right? So then the spine would be starting in this direction, and then the back bend would happen from there. Whereas if we lift the hips up, then the spine's already starting in this direction. Yeah. One thing that we need to mention for the back bends is the spine, protecting the spine. Can somebody come up and do cat-cow? So cat-cow is another back bend and the opposite, are folding forward. But here's a back bend, right? So we can see the same curve in the spine here as we would see in her Cobra or any of her back bends. It's often the same curve that happens. What I mentioned with gravity earlier, gravity's helping this. So this is she could totally relax and get a back bend here. One thing that we don't want to necessarily totally relax, and then come up and do lift your spine up. So we can curve and then come back down. So if I were to push on her back here with a lot of weight, would you prefer I push here, or would you prefer I push when she's at the top? Come up to the top. Or push here. Push now?
Yeah.
Or...
No, you don't want to push when she's down.
Yeah, why not?
Because you could put too much pressure.
Well, actually, I mean, it feels good both places, really.
But, so maybe if I come up with more pressure, right? Would you want me to push now or when she's down? Just intuitively, we're like, we don't want to push now, right? It feels so weak, even just looking, right? And then come up, you're like, yeah, that's strong, right? This is strong.
Yeah, I'm pushing again.
So, but what's pushing? What's the main difference? I mean, there's the arch is a difference, but the main difference is that when she's up, how does she lift up?
She's using her abdominals.
Using the abdominals. So the spine's here, it's always here. The spine is strong. The abdominals are either strong or they're either engaged or they're not engaged, or they're either strong or kind of non-existent. So here they're engaged, so we have a strong spine and we have strong abdominals. So it's like an I-beam. It's very strong, strong on top and strong on the bottom. We have this nice I-beam. And when she comes down, maybe she's relaxing her abdominals, maybe, and her spine's still here, it's strong. So we have the top of the I-beam is strong, but the bottom is maybe non-existent. Mm-hmm. It could exist how? We could engage the abdominals, right? She could still, even though she's arching her back, she could still engage her abdominals, right? You can engage them right now. Yeah, and then I could push. Yeah. Right? It's still not going to be as strong, but I could still push if she has the bottom of the I-beam here, right? We need the strength here in order to be strong. And then if we come to the neutral spine, then this is fairly strong. Same thing, if she engages her abdominals. If she doesn't engage her abdominals, it's very weak. So try to stay here and have weak abdominals. Because then you'll see some flex, right? If she has strong engage, then it's like, she's not going to move, right? Solid. So whenever we're doing a back bend, so come into your back bend again. Whether it's in this position or in camel or in Cobra or in like if we're in bridge pose, we always want to keep some of the abdominal strength there to support the back. Otherwise, what's going to happen someday is you're going to hurt your spine. One of your weak spots is going to come out. Thanks. And this will be true. This is why sometimes or oftentimes people have weak back. The doctor will say to strengthen your abdominal muscles because it will protect their back. And it's because if you go to slip like this, or anything, if you have strong abdominals to support that, it's no trouble. If you can have both sides of the I-beam. If you don't have the front, then it's just like it could just get totally out of whack. Just like if it's a push on her back when her belly's down. So when we're doing Cobra, we want to have that engagement in the abdominals. We don't want to just have a relaxed belly. We want to have an engaged belly. And then it's going to be a much straighter or not much more smooth curve in the spine. If we're super relaxed, what's going to happen is we kind of the weak parts in the spine come out. And you're going to say like, oh, right there, I feel it. It's like a smooth curve and then smooth curve, and then they meet together at an angle at that weak spot. And unless we build, so we're not going to be able to kind of rebuild the strength around it if we just go to that weak spot and stop, right? But if we engage the abdominal muscles and can realign, get a nice smooth arch in the whole spine, then we can allow it to rebuild, as opposed to being always weak. So I'll just demonstrate just the difference again of having just like totally relaxing abdominals versus engaging the abdominals, right? It's like you can just see the energetic difference of a smooth spine or kind of a smooth, and then it'll be one or two more jagged spots. So we always want to be lengthening or engaging particularly the low belly, but really the whole abdominals. Not like we're engaging as much as you possibly could, but just enough to give yourself some structure. So if somebody's to push on your back, you would be protected. Because basically what you are is pushing on your back. That's why we're doing it in a way. So same thing with locust and with bow. I guess not as much with them because we're protected by the ground quite a bit, but certainly in our bridge, right? Same thing. We can have some engagement in our abdominal muscles as we come up, as opposed to just releasing them. So we want to just have a nice, more even arch in the back.